Because the ayat are revealed to the Prophet ﷺ and it's addressing the Quraysh. But it's talking about what we call in English communal memory. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this surah ijma'an, by the consensus of the scholars of tafsir and the clear statements of Sahaba in Makkah. Here, Makkiyah. You know, some chapters of the Quran are partly in Mecca, part in Medina, some are strictly in Medina, but this is strictly from Mecca. And as the ulama of tafsir have mentioned, it is 5 ayat, no ikhtilaf on this issue. We usually see it in the Mus'haf as Surah Al Fil. But in Sahih al-Bukhari, it is also called Surah Alam Tara. This is another name for the surah. Same surah. And many times we see this, that the surah will have 2 names, or 3 names at times, or 4 names. Why? Because the names of the chapters are ijtihadan. There is ijtihad. Some of them, the Prophet ﷺ told us, Surah Mulk. He told us Surah Mulk. Okay. Surah Al-Baqarah is mentioned in Hadith. Right? Surah Al-Fatiha mentioned in Hadith. It's okay. But some of the chapters, they are given the name either by the intro, like Alam Tara, or by the subject matter, like Fil. And nothing wrong with that, and both are authentic. And they're all reported, and as I mentioned, Bukhari and so on, it's also called Alam Tara. And Sahaba and others, they refer to it Surah Fil. So nothing wrong with either one of them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Ibadah, a'udhu billahi minash shaitan al-rajim, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's refuge always before we recite something from the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He says, Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. Here, first thing to understand, and I want you to go deep. I don't want you to just, okay, you could pick up a translation of the Quran, read the translation, but I want you to tadabbur, I want you to contemplate on this, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Alam tara, didn't you see? Right? But the incident of Am al-Fil or Yawm al-Fil, the day of the attack or the year of the attack, was when the Prophet ﷺ was born. And the revelation of the Quran was at the age of the Prophet ﷺ being 40. This was revealed more than 40 years after the incident. So many of the people that physically saw the actual incident, not like Aisha radiallahu anha saw one of them, but she didn't see the incident, she wasn't born, right? Even the Prophet ﷺ was born that year, so he didn't see the incident himself. So it's not talking about the person, because the ayat are revealed to the Prophet ﷺ and it's addressing the Quraysh, but it's talking about what we call in English communal memory. That's an interesting thing in language, right? Didn't you see? And tara, as the ulama of lugha, linguistic scholars, and balagha, right? And that's why, like people say, which book? We take so many different books to collect the tafsir together, right? Because there is athar, ahadith and statements of Sahaba that make tafsir. Then there is ayat that make tafsir of ayat. Then there is asbab al-nuzul, what was going on in context. But then there is also language, right? So the scholars of language in their tafasir mentions some very interesting points. First, tara is mudari'. It's what? Present tense. It's not past tense. And this incident happened when? In the past. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using present tense to those people that are not seeing the event. Most of them weren't even alive or weren't even capable to remember. But He's using present tense to tell you that this power of Allah and this protection of Allah is not just in the past, but today and for the future. And that's why they said this is used for continuity, to show something that continues. And when tara is used, this is, as they say, not used for actual sight, but majazan. What does that mean? If I tell you, you know what, I was here and this happened, and you weren't there, and you go, I see your point. Well, it doesn't mean that you literally see my point. It means you understand my point. And that is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses it here. That don't you understand, don't you remember, don't you have this fahm, this understanding from what your community had witnessed themselves. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kayfa, how? Fa'ala. Fa'ala, not amila. So this is linguistics of the Quran that many times we don't think about. Amila is to act, an action. Fa'ala is an action that does not require intent or effort. Right? So when you say, look at the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, not إِنَّمَا أَفْعَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Right? So when you do an action, I want to go make salah, I want to go for hajj, I want to go for umrah, I want to give zakat. It takes intent and it takes effort and action. You know, a worker who goes out and work, amil. He's not called fa'il. He's worker. But fa'ala is generally used for actions, af'al. So here it shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did this without even it being an effort for Allah. That's how powerful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. This is the linguistic beauty of the Quran that many of us who don't speak Arabic in depth, not just speak Arabic, urid al-qahwa ma al-halib kind of Arabic, but shlonak, shuya ammu, no. Like when you really go into the depth of balagha, fasaha of the Quran, you understand these aspects. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say, Kayfa fa'ala Allah. He said, Rabbuka. So, haven't you seen, or don't you know and understand and comprehend how your Lord dealt with the people of the elephant? Why the difference between using the word Allah, which is a very powerful message, and Rabb? What's the difference? Think. When you say Rabb, what does that denote of you?
I'm a slave.
You're Abd. Right? Meaning that it's not just that, okay, Allah, but Allah is your Lord. He's Rabbuka, your Lord. The ka is a damir, pointing towards you. To show you that no matter how much pride you have, no matter if you call yourself an atheist, an agnostic, a PhD or whatever, I'm above religion and I don't believe in all that, I'm too smart for all that, I'm too educated. No matter what all you title yourself with, in the end, you're an abd of Allah. There's two types of ibad. One is a Muslim. Aslama. We are slaves of Allah who submit to Allah. We know we're slaves of Allah. We know Allah created us. We know we're going to go back to Allah. We submit. Allah, you are my Rabb. Whatever you ordain, the Sharia, if you order me to have a beard, I'm having a beard. If you order me to wear hijab and niqab, I'm going to wear it. Why? Because you are my Rabb and you know best and you ordered it. That's it. If you told me no riba, no riba. If you told me don't steal, don't steal. If you told me that's it, you're my Rabb, I submit. And then there is the abd that doesn't submit but is still abd. And Allah gives you that time in this world. You can be a kafir. It's your choice. You could be a mushrik. You could deny. You could be a mulhid. You could be an atheist. You could be an agnostic. You could be a Christian and confused. Whatever you want to be, you can be. But understand that in the end, you'll still